So here we are with hopefully the last installment of this 3.6 liter Chevy Traverse timing chain project video series. Once again, I went through my YouTube video and did a screenshot of what I did to begin with. And then I basically just kind of watched it backwards to see what I did and how I did it. And I do believe that I've got a pretty complete list of my to-dos. We're just going to start from the top, run through it, and see how well I stay on task. We got to get our AC pump and our belt put back in place and wired up. We've got to get that top motor mount. We have to get our fuel line and our heater core hoses connected over on that side. We've got to get our coolant hoses for the radiator. We've got to get our transmission lines hooked back up. We have a couple grounds over on the driver's side of the engine bay. Let's see here. We have some ABS wiring, and then we can get the airbox and the ECM in place. Over here we've got to get the lower fuse box tray in. We've got to do our wiring to connect our fuse box. We've got to hook up some vacuum lines and purge lines. We got to get our top cowl back in place, our windshield wipers. Let's see, we have to hook up the exhaust. We've got to give it coolant. We've got to give it an oil change. We have a ABS sensor that came apart while we were over on that side of the world that we have to address. We got to hook our brakes back up, put tires on, set this thing on the ground, hook up battery, and finalize just engine compartment shrouds and stuff. I do believe that is our list of things to do. Let's get to work. Things are really coming along up on the top here. I have the belt on, and of course the AC pump is installed as well. It's down there. It's all plugged in. My pressure sensor is plugged in on the AC line as well. I am working on this tray for the fuse box, and thanks to some of the videos and pictures I took, I realized that this harness needs to be coming through that hole right there. So I got to pop that back loose, and then I'll be able to orient this into those holes, and then everything's going to come together nice and smooth here. My power steering reservoir is hooked up. My cooler lines down on the radiator are hooked up. This overflow tank is in. I do find it funny that there's never been a clamp there. I might just throw a zip tie on for good measure, even though once this is under pressure, this is what controls the pressure, and this just kind of regulates back and forth based on temperatures. But I would like a clamp there anyway. It just feels kind of soft. And let's see, then it's going to be time to come over here, do some of those ground wires, do that lower airbox, and then I can finish up here. There's some type of a purge, and that's what this wire harness plug was for. So there's a little pump right here, and then I can put my ECM in, and then I can continue with stuff over there. I've got my transmission lines and some other wiring to do as well. I've been climbing up and down this ladder all day, but the only thing underneath here I needed to do at this moment was the air conditioning pump and belt and stuff like that. So I'm gonna bring this car back down. That's a whole lot better. Our fuse box is in. Our main power wire here has been hooked up. Well, our to-do list is shrinking drastically. We still have to do this top cowl and put the windshield wipers back on. We've got to fix the exhaust back together still. We got to add coolant, power steering fluid, oil change. We got to do something about that ABS sensor on the left front hub. hook up our brake calipers, put the tires back on, hook up the battery, and then just finish with our covers and things. Okay, so we have hooked up the steering rack today. That was something I never put on my list of things to do. I topped off the power steering fluid, and then just with the key on, went back and forth with the steering wheel a handful of times to kind of help purge and push through any air bubbles. I'm sure I'm going to have to top that off again, but it helps to get the majority of the air out. I did see the reservoir level go down, so it worked. I didn't do a complete oil change yet, and I'll explain why. I drained the oil, I refilled the oil. 6 good quarts of 530 full synthetic oil. And the reason I did not pull the filter is because I want as much oil pressure as possible to get right to those tensioners. And I think that's key. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire it up, and then I'm going to make sure it runs. And then I'll drain the oil, pull the filter, replace that, and then start again with fresh fluid. My battery's just charging up a little bit. I still need to do some work on the exhaust. Both of my flange bolts that holds the head pipe to the tailpipe, they both snapped off, so I'm going to have to drill those out and do some repair work underneath. We still have to get brakes put back together and all that, but I don't need those to do a test fire. And that's that. So I'm just waiting for the battery to charge up a little bit so I can do some cranking. And if all goes well here shortly, we should be hearing some good noise. Well, it's the moment of truth. I'm going to see if this thing's going to start or if it's going to not start. Without further ado, I have to say this one has been kind of concerning me for a while, and man, that felt really good. I'm super glad that that fired right up just the way it was supposed to. I definitely need to get the exhaust back together. I gotta get some coolant in here so it can run a little bit longer, and then I will warm it up, kind of run it through its cycles, and then do one more oil change, fresh filter, good to go. That feels really good. I think I'm just going to say that this is wrapped up. The car works. It'll drive out of here. Everything else is just kind of buttoning things up. I do appreciate you watching, and you have a great day. Well, we're just going to keep on working on getting some coolant bled through this engine. And we're going to work on taking a road trip here pretty soon. This vehicle is right at 200,000 miles. I think there's like 200,009 miles. And apparently that's how many miles it takes to wear out a timing chain, 200,000.